Good evening. Welcome to the RSA show. I am your host for this evening, Simon. But I've got my usual partners in crime with me, Rishi and Rick and Ashley. Sorry, my tongue it's slurring my words already. Clearly, it's had too much to drink and still blowing out from the weekend. But we're going to break down all the highs and lows of the AFC and the NFC games and anything else that comes to mind. Guys, how you doing? How are we both?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Seeming back to work today, but I'm alive.
Yeah. We're both looking a bit blurry-eyed from Porto's probably a late shift. So we're trying to cram all of these games in, but I think we're all sort of catching up on sleep now. But at least we know who's going to go to the big dance and who's going to be watching it on their TV screens at home like the rest of us. So talking about this first game is going to be like ripping that plaster off. You know it's going to hurt, but you're going to have to do it anyway. So kick tonight off. We're going to start talking about the Ravens and the Chiefs game. And Rick, I'm going to come to you first on this one. Bit of a chippy game from the start. What did you think?
What, between me and you, or between the Ravens and the Chiefs?
Well, all of the above. All of the above.
Yeah. For those listening, we'd all had a few beers before that game, but I'd had quite a lot, to be honest, watching it. So yeah, I mean, tripping back. But yeah, it was a chippy game. I think when you're playing the best team, the Ravens are going to start chipping up because they're going to be trying to put their marker down. But yeah, for me, as we spoke about on the WhatsApp group, people talk about penalties all the time with the Chiefs. They like to bring it up. They like to say what's wrong. But I think the majority of the calls they got right. I think we had players punching players. We had people getting in people's faces. Some of the tackles on our wide receivers were you'd end up in jail for, basically. Dropping elbows on them. The one guy tried to whack his ass on the guy's face. Come on now. It was chippy, and I think the only reason it was chippy was because there was only one team in it. And as much as we could talk about the penalties, as much as we could talk about things maybe going Patrick Mahomes' way, I don't think there's any argument that apart from the one touchdown, which was a great touchdown that Lamar threw to Flowers, there was only one team playing any football.
Yeah, and I think really from the beginning, what we saw was that there was quite a big opening drive and a big opening statement coming from you in that first quarter. And actually, I don't know what you I don't know about you. This one caught me by surprise, really, because I thought really it was probably a couple of 3-and-outs, and then we'll get ticking over. Yeah. But the Chiefs started off on a bit of a long drive.
Yeah. Completely, I think, surprised by the Ravens and how they turned up in this game. I think your defense did show up, especially in that second half. But I thought the Ravens couldn't get anything going on offense. I thought they just poor. Like, they played so well all season, and to get to where they were, and they had home field advantage. Got Lamar Jackson playing some great football. And he just didn't show up. The offense didn't show up. They made stupid errors. They kind of beat themselves as well, because even though you lost that game, you had opportunities to get back in and potentially win that game, but the Ravens just didn't take them. Obviously, Flowers, he's going to have to grow up quickly in this league, and need to start checking himself and remember, what game you're playing in and what's on the line. And I thought he shouldn't have taunted the way that he did, and obviously letting that not protecting the ball enough to get in the end zone. I mean, it was a great punch out by Snead, and that's why you teach defenders to go and do, but he should have held that ball in a bit more. And obviously Lamar Jackson, I don't know why he threw it the way he did, because all I seen was 3 Chiefs defenders in the area, and one Raven. So why on earth he threw that the way he did, straight down there, and he got picked off. So yeah, I was really surprised by the Ravens in this game. Obviously, Chiefs did what they had to do. They were playing really well in that first half. They should have got more in that first half, you could say. Ravens did well second half to shut them down a bit, and I think they kind of went more man-on-man coverage.
Yeah.
But no, I was completely let down with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens going into this, as I fancied them to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you're not alone there, and I think really the tone was set really before even kickoff. But I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on some of the antics that went on before the game with Travis Kelce moving Justin Tucker's helmet, which that's just a bit of handbags, but really I think the Arthur Morlett, crossing going onto the other side of the pitch and starting a bit of a scurry was probably not a good idea, because for all we know, he could have been kicked out of the game before he even put his pads on. So again, I think, speaking of Jason Kelce, whichever colour you're wearing, he was either the hero or the villain for you within this game, because we didn't have an answer for him really pretty much all game, and he was really pretty. And Rick, you'll probably agree with me on this. He was maybe on one of the few things you'll agree with me on this. He was really he was the shining light really in your attack. And even though there were times when we thought we had him covered, we didn't. And there was one in particular where I felt like we had Patrick Mahomes ready for a sack, and then he just lobs it over Van Noy's head for some sort of dink, like basketball shot. So just what a tandem! What a tandem!
Yeah, but you're right. Like you say, like you just alluded to, that take by Kelce from that whatever Mahomes was trying. I don't know. I can't imagine that was what they were planning to do. But yeah, his hands. I think he swapped hands, to be honest, because he wasn't catching them in the regular season. But at the moment, in the games in the playoffs when it counts, he's been like he has been for the last 5-6 years. So yeah, Travis Kelce was definitely the difference in that game. Obviously, Mahomes made some good scrambling yards when it looked like you were going to get us out of the and get us back to first downs. I think that was the difference. I think the Chiefs were very good at converting third downs and making first downs out of nothing. Whereas Lamar, he was getting pushed back and making silly throws, like you said, which led to interceptions or him just about getting the ball out before he was getting sacked. So, I think Kelce was definitely the difference maker. I thought Rice had another amazing game. Pacheco was great again. Them three, a key to everything we do. And obviously, defensively, we were strong. So it's an interesting one. I think, the Ravens definitely left a lot out there. I don't know where they go from it. I thought second half they were better, but yeah, it was just silly stuff. Like you say, when Roquan Smith just randomly ran and took out our offensive lineman for no reason at all. It was like we got in your head. Obviously, I don't know what happened with Kelce and Van Noy to make Van Noy put his head in. But since after that happened, they seem to lose their heads and just want to pick a fight every time someone had the ball. So, or either Patrick and Mahomes and all were saying or doing clearly that the Ravens, in an unfamiliar situation, weren't able to deal with it, where Mahomes obviously has been there for the last 6 times. So that's the difference. A great, like I say, it was good. I was happy I had quite a lot of beer in me by the second half. It was quite hard to watch that second half, and it could have gone either way because, as Ashley said earlier, we didn't kill it off. But yeah, luckily enough, we're in there. And yeah, like you said, we have thanked Travis Kelce for a good touchdown catch and also a ridiculous catch from Mahomes.
Absolutely. And, speaking of, even speaking of our attack, really, I think even as we were discussing the other night, we have all of these weapons, and even I think Ashley's comment of the night was probably my favourite, but probably all for the wrong reasons. Was she forgot that Odell Beckham played for us? So, but then it goes to show just how much of a non-factor he was, and the rest of the Ravens receivers. And like you said, as you mentioned earlier about Zay Flowers, he was really our only shining light, but then he cost us as well with just silly penalties. And thank God Carl Hamilton came to play tonight, that night, right, Ash?
Yeah, exactly. Hamilton was that your best player on that pitch on Sunday. He definitely kept you in it, especially in that first half. He kept that score down, didn't he? But yeah, I think you look at that Ravens team, like I say, Odell Beckham didn't really hear him. Isaiah Likely, who's had a great season this year,
Nowhere to be seen. Yeah,
he wasn't there to be seen. Obviously, Mark Andrews coming back off an injury, but he's fit, he's ready to go, and that matchup wasn't there as it normally is between him and Jackson. I think one of the biggest people that let you down was Gus Edwards. That run game was terrible. I just thought he had a couple of bursts, but apart from that, he wasn't involved, and you weren't able to maintain the attacks because you weren't getting your first downs. And sometimes you just need your running back to step up and kind of get you those hard yards, and then put it back in the quarterback's hands when you need to. He wasn't doing that, and it was all on Lamar. In the end, Lamar was just running himself as the game went on. Kind of going back to the Ravens the past couple of years, where Lamar Jackson just take it on himself and get the chains moving. But yeah, you were let down, I think, by the play calling. I think Lamar Jackson as well. He has to take responsibility for that. You've got some great wide receivers and tight ends who you didn't utilise in that game. And I think your defense is the only one to really, really be proud of themselves after that game. At the end of it, you kept the Chiefs down to 17 points. Not many teams can do that. Chiefs didn't score a point in the second half, I don't think, do they?
No.
Not many teams do that. So,
no.
Yes, there's a lot of negatives, but your positives was your defense. Your negatives is obviously going to be Lamar Jackson and that offense. And Lamar Jackson's going to have to start stepping up for the off-season. You paid him all that money for this reason. He's finally made it to an off-season because he's usually injured. Maybe the occasion got to him. I don't know. He just didn't look like Lamar Jackson in that game. And yeah, disappointed is my word for the Ravens.
Absolutely. And I think if I ever had the opportunity to sit down with the offensive coaches and speak about the game plan, my first questions will be, what was the game plan? Because for everybody who was watching, it didn't look like there was a plan in place, because it just seemed to be all of a muddle. Even Lamar Jackson was having to throw it to himself at times. I mean, one of the bright spots in that game was he made a hell of a catch, but really it should have really probably ended up in the hands of the other team. But as you said, Gus Edwards, I mean, they ran the ball a couple of times, but it probably wasn't enough, and it wasn't quite working. And you said Mark Andrews was just a complete non-factor in the game. And I pulled out a stat the other day where when we ran the ball more than 20 times, we were 11-1 this year. So I think that's gonna really sink. That's probably going to cut deep, really, with this squad. But I also give a lot of credit to the Chiefs defense. Yeah, I'm actually going to give some credit to the Chiefs defense, but then with regards to sort of the throwing it, a lot of those lanes weren't opened, because I remember even on a few plays, it was, Bateman covered, Aguilar covered, and I think really through that whole game, McDuffie and Snead were superb throughout all of it, and even sort of that front seven really stepped up. And as you said, because we're like a Mena who had caused a turnover early in the game, and I thought Carl Aftis was a bit of a menace all game. I think this defense has really stepped up, and it's a signature Steve Spagnuolo, really, where he's caused pressure and he gets into your head, and then I think really composure really started to fall apart then with Lamar Jackson, and you can see it towards the end of the game when he's throwing his helmet, whereas throughout the whole game you don't see if they were frustrated, the Chiefs didn't show it, and I felt like that was a big difference. I know we spoke about this last week with how can these players handle these situations when they get to these big games. This is as far as Lamar has got so far, and I felt like the person who was going to have to be the figurehead in all of this, he just didn't handle it very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think really, going forward, this is probably the best chance as well. With we're probably getting here now because this team was built to win now. This team was built to win now, and now with all the turnovers of roster and free agency, there's probably teams probably going to be a bit dismantled now, and we're going to have to sort of take this moment and rebuild. So we'll see what happens going forward. But anyway, to say with the Chiefs, I'm good. This is a question for you, Ash. Now you've seen that they're making another Super Bowl appearance.
Yeah.
Are we starting to talking about this team being a dynasty? Are we starting to talk about that? When we talk about Belichick and Brady, are we going to put Andy Reid and Mahomes in the same category?
Yeah, not far off. I mean, still a bit of a way to go. And then Mahomes won 2, Tom Brady won 7. So he's still quite a way to go. And I do expect the chasing pack to catch up. In the coming seasons. I think you look at the Bengals this year and injury hit this year. They were very unlucky. I expect them to come back strong. I expect the Chargers to do well in the division. Now they've got Harbaugh, which I know we'll discuss about the coaching later. I think that's an absolute dime of a coaching appointment there. But yeah, I think if you look at what Mahomes and Andy Reid has done, you can't fault that. And yeah, I think if you look at dynasties and stuff, and still a way to go, I think to catch Brady and Belichick and the Patriots and what we did, but you're definitely pushing your way in that bracket, I must say.
Absolutely. When you consider, Rick, this is the 6th straight AFC title game for Mahomes as well. I mean, that's just that's a hell of a record, really. And now Andy Reid's going into his, he's the 4th coach in history now to lead a team to 5 Super Bowls. The brownie points, if you can name any of the others, one which is probably going to be very, very, very obvious, but that's off if you can get any of the others.
What coaches?
Coaches.
Well, obviously, yeah, Belichick's obviously the one.
Bill.
Is it Tomlin? No. Yes.
Nope.
No. Nope. This is win or got to it.
Yeah.
Got to it.
Got to it. I'll do with a bit. These are obviously older coaches.
These are older coaches, yeah. These are before our time.
Oh God.
Montana? Anyone that starts like Montana?
Give you a clue. Dolphins. I'll give you another clue. Cowboys.
Marino.
Coaches now.
All coaches, yeah.
Yeah.
Shula, no.
Shula, yeah. You've got one.
Go.
Yeah.
Shula. Say the Cowboys.
Garrett?
Cowboys.
No, I don't know Garrett.
Tom Landry.
And
then there is another. No, actually, we've said them all because we said Belichick at the start. So I'm even second guessing myself. But yeah, but I see if they're starting to make the starting to rewrite the history books now. But what is it about Andy Reid? He seems to be taking names with people who used to work for him. First Harbaugh, Sean McDermott the week before. He seems to like to pick on people who go and work elsewhere.
Yeah, no, they always talk about his coaching tree, don't they? And where they go. And it seems to happen with a lot, the big coaches, they've always got a lot of coaches then that build up on them. And yeah, I think he's obviously someone that everyone follows. And as you were saying about the dynasty, though, like it's very much Patriots-esque this season, especially where we aren't playing amazing football. We're doing enough.
Yeah.
And the Patriots, especially towards the end of the domination, they were winning games where they didn't really deserve to win, but they were winning it. So I think that's the difference in it. What I would say, though, is that what I think is good about our team is that we're changing players and we're still doing it. If you think Tyreek Hill's gone Ash alluded to it. We don't know how many more years Kelsey's got on the clock. But I'm sure you'll find another tight end to come in and take that berth. He finds defense. We basically have got a defensive rookies that we've said previously on the show, and they've all stepped up and they all do what they need to do. So that's why I think it is a dynasty, and that's why I think Reed is brilliant. Mahomes, obviously, you've got to keep him there for the long term, like he did with Brady. And then you've got players who are coming through. So it definitely is a dynasty. I love the way that they change things and they could still be the same team. But yeah, as Ash said, maybe helped out a bit. I think the AFC earlier in the season, people were saying that it was probably the weaker conference. The NFC was where the strong teams were with the Eagles, the Cowboys. But when it's come down to the big games and the playoffs, it's the AFC that's really stood out. So, yeah, I think it is definitely on its way. And Andy Reid is a brilliant coach. So I hope he stays on as long as he can.
Absolutely, and because you've got there's someone who can adapt as well, and because from the way probably that we used to play is quite different now from what we've seen in the past. Whereas there's probably a lot more of a running game, with two featured backs, with Pacheco and Allaire as well, and then other people who jump in to contribute as well, and they're just people who just chip in and and do a job, whether it be Valdez-Scantling moving the chains or Blake Bell or Noah Gray, who are just those extra handy pieces, and they're probably one of the best at that as well. And for me, that's very Patriot-esque, where you've got those people who can come in and they have a role which they know what they're doing in terms of contributing to the team. May not necessarily be the person who gets the Pro Bowl at the end of the year, but they make a huge contribution either way. Speaking of the NFC, that means a great segue into our next part of the conversation. Is the Lions and the 49ers, and well, what a game! All I say, I was grateful for this game because this one was so much better than the first one, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
And we even spoke about it last week, Ricky. Lions, if they've got any chance of winning this game, they've got to come out of the blocks, and they're got to come out of the blocks fast. And wow, didn't they do just that?
Yeah, I was surprised. Like I said, I was obviously away with my mate who's a big 49ers fan, and we were watching it the pub had closed by now, so we had to go back to the room and watch on his tablet. But yeah, I was very surprised. Obviously, he wasn't very happy to start with. But yeah, I think they, credit to Detroit, they started brilliantly. They were putting plays together. As Ash noted, from the previous week to this one, they needed a big game from Montgomery. In the first half, he definitely had a big game. And yeah, he had all the pieces moving on his team. Goff did an amazing job. The defense obviously were doing an amazing job on the 49ers attack and keeping them down. And they were coming off the pitch, and you wouldn't have thought that. They couldn't seem to find Kittle or any of their big guns in that first half. But as we spoke about, I think, when it came down to it, game management, when they were so far ahead, I think Goff just kind of stopped doing what he was doing. They went very, very much in defense mode, not to lose rather than to win the game. And then when you give space and time to that 49ers attack, unfortunately, then the writing was on the wall. It was, still a very close game, don't get me wrong, and anyone could have won it up to the end. But yeah, I think just, again, similar with maybe what we talked about the first game, the 49ers have been around the championship game quite often the last couple of years, and I think a lot of them players have had that experience, and it did come down to the experience of the likes of Kittle. Not so much Purdy, obviously, because he hasn't been there very long, but them big players who they've had there for a while, making big plays, and in the end, it looked like, like I said, Detroit just tried not to lose the game, and it backfired.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ashley, and I don't know how you feel on this, because we've seen since Dan Campbell's been in charge, he's very, very aggressive. He's ultra aggressive, and maybe will he look back on those couple of fourth downs where they decided to go for it? Wrong move. should have taken the points, maybe?
Yeah. For me, definitely. He'll admit that it's the right call, but look, I think you need to remember when you're in a game like this, you need to remember the game you're in, what's on the line, the situation you're in, and the opposition you're playing. And in that moment, in that game, they should have gone for the points on the first one. But at that point, they were in a lot of danger. But obviously, the second one, you've led the whole game. You got battered second half. You've just given up another touch. No, your defense just made a big stop, and obviously they went and got a field goal. You get at the other end of the pitch, and he decides to go for it on like it's a 4th and 3 or something, 4th and 4.
Yeah,
he should have taken the points, because even that game up, hope your defense can make a stop. You have loads of time on the clock. You still got your 3 timeouts. There's a number of things that could have happened if he took the points, right? So, he obviously didn't learn from that Lafleur the previous week when the Packers played them. They didn't take the points and they ended up losing by 3. Same story again. So, yeah, I love Dan Campbell and what he's done with that Lions team, but I think sometimes he needs to have a plan B, step away from what he normally goes. It's worked so far. It's got you to where you are. It doesn't mean it's going to work all the way through in every single game. So for me, he should have taken the points. The 49ers were obviously flying that second half. There were some crazy plays in that game. That Jennings catch was unbelievable.
Oh.
I mean, and the Ayuk play was just nuts. I mean, make your own look, right? I mean, he chased her down and he got the catch. But yeah, you should have taken the points. The way the second half was going, he should have leveled it up and seen what happened after that.
Absolutely, and I think he gets. He's the type of coach. He acts on emotion, and he probably think, right, we're in this, guys. We're going for it. We're going all in, and then we'll worry about the consequences of it later. And I thought on those 4th downs, like you quite rightly mentioned, it was just for me for the plays they dialed up. It was Reynolds. Unfortunately, he had a bad case of the drop sack game and really sort of cost his team in these moments. And once his number was called, but and then, like you said, speaking on the other side of receivers, Brandon Ayuk can thank Vildor's face a lot for being able to help him make that catch as well, where it bounces off his face mask as well. Yeah. And I just felt like in this game where they came out. They flew out the gates really early, and I loved the just sort of where it was in the first couple of downs. Montgomery was in, and then Jameson Williams stepped up then, and he seemed to be stumbling for about 20 yards before he hit the end zone. How he didn't hit his face on the post, I have no idea. But then for me, what felt like a real turning point in the second quarter. They get down to the 49ers end zone, and they don't quite connect, and they take the field goal. I felt like really at that moment, I don't know how you felt, Rick. That felt like a bit of almost like a change in the tide. Then before the second half, and lo and behold, it just seemed like a completely different team then coming out in the third quarter.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think that it comes down to the little things, but I think obviously the 49ers would have been able to regroup. Is it like you say, if they get down there and they get another touchdown before the end of the half, then it's a totally different game, isn't it? The 49ers pretty much going to have a near impossible task as long as the Detroit defense stands up. So yeah, I think it just comes down to, like I say, experience. We talked about it last week with it's 30 years since the Lions have been there. A lot of them players are young, and probably maybe let down by a few guys. You talked about Josh Reynolds. You think Josh Reynolds and Jared Goff, they know each other very well from the Rams and now here. You'd have thought they'd be in sync with that, but I just think yes, it was a big call, and they've obviously gone for it, and it's backfired in the end. But I just think as soon as the 49ers, they got some points back on the board in the second half, it was just always then going to be, well, what are the Lions going to do? And as I said earlier, I think they just played defence mode rather than going for the likes of St. Brown, rather than trying to make them big plays that they played at the start. Like you said, just then, Simon, they kind of went away from getting Montgomery just flying down the traps, and maybe because the 49ers got a bit better at defending the run game as well. I was joking with my mate. I was saying I thought Warner and Greenlaw were supposed to be able to tackle these players, and then they did. They did actually start doing it in the second half. So, but yeah, first half was, like I said, it was chalk and cheese. When it came down to it, when, like I say, when it got close, and when it was the big plays, then whoever, whether the Detroit defense was going to get on top or the 49ers offense, unfortunately for the Lions, it all went in the 49ers' favour.
And they certainly did. And we knew coming out in the second half they were going to get a big dose of the run. You knew McCaffrey was going to get the ball, and he had the success in the first half. That was probably one of the key positives they could take away from the first two quarters. But Ashley, did you expect Purdy to be getting involved in the running game as well? Because he made some big chunk plays in those.
Yeah, in the second half, yeah. First half he wasn't great, was he? Second half though, he started using his legs more. He kind of became more effective using his legs than he was throwing the ball. And this is what I think can let San Francisco down in the Super Bowl. He's put it in Brock Purdy's hands, because I don't think he's nowhere near Mahomes' level. I think he's overachieved a little bit, to be honest. And if you shut McCaffrey down, you're going to win that game. But no, he made some plays when he had to. I wasn't overawed by his performance. I thought it was standard at best. He got a few throws away, which you expect him to make as a quarterback. But no, I wasn't blown away by him. And I think this is why the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl, because they've got a much better quarterback. And if you can shut McCaffrey down like the Ravens did before, you'll win that game.
Absolutely, and you think and I agree with you completely on that, because you look at his supporting cast and it's probably as good as any as we've had in the league this year. And the fact that even Kittle didn't have a touch until the second quarter speaks volumes. And Deebo Samuel, yes, he was in and out. He had a few touches, but he wasn't quite really getting involved in the game. And I thought there was one point where McCaffrey landed on his head, and he looked it almost looked a bit shaky for a second. I thought, oh God, if he goes down, could this be an absolute momentum killer for them? But it turns out he's tough as nails, and he kept on going. But I think for me, this is as much the Lions throwing this away that it is 49ers making their way back, because even when the scores were level, Ricky, when they were 20-20, you think, right, just okay, scores are even, you still got a chance. But I don't remember even Amon-Ra making. I think he made a single catch in the second half.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. They kind of lost that. They lost the telepathy. Where I don't know which one it is. I'm going to go telepathy.
Sounds right.
Sounds all right. Someone's going to like it. So yeah, I thought they lost that in the second half. I think first half, and when you're ahead, as you know, when you're winning and you're ahead, everything goes right for you. They were making them catches. Like I say, St. Brown was brilliant. Laporta was making the hard yards again. But yeah, what happened second half? The pressure comes on, and for his whole career, there's been question marks on Jared Goff's composure when he's under pressure. We all know what he's like when his teams are doing well. He looks amazing. He looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But then when the pressure gets on and you get a very good team getting close to you, then you find out whether or not your quarterback is the one that's going to win you Super Bowls. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, he seemed to go away from St. Brown. He seemed to not even be looking for him. I remember seeing a few plays when I was watching it, and I was like, they were showing the replay afterwards, and he had 2 or 3 guys free on their own. Yeah. But he was just dead eye looking for the same person. And then they were obviously covered. Fair play to the 49ers covering them and taking them out of the game. But I think it's just game management. I got to be honest. I think, like Ashley said, I don't think Purdy had his best game again. But in the right times, he picked out his players who were there to take the catches, whereas the Lions didn't. They went away from the run game, and they they were just stopped at source. They couldn't get any points on the board. And as you alluded to earlier, maybe take that field goal, put a bit of pressure then back on the 49ers rather than you being under pressure for the last 30 minutes of the game. So, yeah, I think it's game management. It's game management by Dan Campbell and the offensive coordinator. But most importantly, and what it always comes down to, is game management by Jared Goff when his team is under pressure.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. When the good is going good with Goff, it looks great. But when when his foot's in quicksand, it seems to be not a. It seems to be not a good. It just gets bad, and it seems to snowball then, and it seems to felt like it just seemed to get out a bit of control then, and. I mean, just as well that journey we're doing the halftime performance because the 49ers did not stop believing. And then actually, when you look at this team, then when you look at the Lions now, when they review really what they've done now for the last 3 seasons, in Campbell's first year, they've gone 3-13. Year 2, they've gone 9-6. Now they've gone 14-6. Do you think they'll look back and see this as a success, or do you feel like there's going to be a little bit of edge of they're going to be a little bit gutted about just that this storybook has come to an end this season?
Yeah, probably going to feel a bit of both. I think gutted because they had that big lead. They just had to see that second half out, and which they obviously couldn't do. And I think that comes down to obviously your coaching plays, obviously your quarterback kind of going away from what he's done all season. But I think they can look back as well and be happy with the season. And look, I didn't think they would get to a championship game, if I'm being honest. So the fact that they've done that, I think this is something they might have planned for next season or season after. The fact they've done it now, and everyone's looking at this Lions team, and you're thinking, you know what, this is an exciting young team. The team's going to learn a lot from that loss and from the run they've had this postseason. It's a team that's got a lot going for them, and they can only build on this experience. And the bad times kind of help you get to the good, don't they? So I think you need those moments, and I think this is a young team. It'll hurt now, but I think it'll benefit in the long term. But no, I think they can be proud of this season. I think they've definitely overachieved a little bit, but obviously the disappointment is the fact they were very close. They were so close to making it right. So of course you're going to be hurt, but yeah, they've got nothing to feel disappointed about overall when you look back.
Absolutely. And do you think when you speak on the youth, there's so much young talent on there, and it's great. And do you think we'll be talking about Laporta in the same breath as Kelsey in a couple of seasons' time, Rick?
Yeah, I really like him. I think he's very similar to Kelsey, in which when they're struggling on third down, he's the guy who's going to get you out the hole, and that's why I like he's a big lad, strong, and when he needs him, Goff, he does. He obviously did in the second half, he didn't do very well, but generally, what I've seen of the Lions this year is when maybe the first, second down, he can't find Reynolds or St. Brown, he goes to Laporta, and Laporta gets him back onto the first down. So. Yeah, I think so. I think he's got all the ingredients. Obviously, there's a bit of a question mark with his knees and stuff like that. But I think if he can keep himself fit, as Travis has done, to be fair, he's not, even when he is injured, he plays. So I think he's definitely got all the tools to do it, and he's had an amazing rookie season. So I hope so. I like what I see of him. But yeah, it's going to be dependent on other parts of the Lions team to get them in these big game situations that'll go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the sooner they can drop Cam Sutton, the better as well. And if they tighten up really on within their defence and get maybe one or two pieces, I can fully see this team being right back there. And who knows, maybe we'll be looking back at that this team potentially, a Super Bowl favourite within a couple of seasons or so. But anyway, at least we now know who is going to be our final two. And now, prediction time, guys. Got the Chiefs, got our 49ers. I already know which one of you is gonna say? So I'm gonna I'm gonna come to you first, Ashley. Predictions.
I'm going to go for Chiefs. I think they got them a bit more experience. I think Mahomes is. You've got Mahomes and Kels, and I just think they're unstoppable on the day, aren't they? I don't think Purdy is, as I said earlier, is all that. They've relied on McCaffrey a lot this season. The 49ers would not be where they are without Christian McCaffrey. It's as simple as that. They wouldn't have won half the games. So I expect the Chiefs to draw up a plan to keep McCaffrey quiet. It's a hard thing to do, but I think they will. And I think the Chiefs will run away with the game. Well, not run away. I don't know. I think they might win by 10 or something. I think I fancy the Chiefs this one.
Okay. Well, Ricky, this might seem like a pointless question. And there might be some point you might have had too many beers and you hit your head over the weekend. You might say the 49ers, but I doubt that. So, what's your take on this game?
Well, what I will say is that when we played them a couple of years ago and beat them, obviously, to win our first Super Bowl, they were very good at stopping Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. You know, it was a low-scoring game. What the Ravens held us to, I think was it 39, I think. So obviously we kept them out, which was good. But it was a low-scoring game, and yeah, it depends. Obviously, Shanahan's come out. He says, "Personal, I want my revenge in this game." Obviously, because he's still there coaching after that one. But yeah, it's hard to go away from the Chiefs because everything is on their side. You know, Andy Reid has done it before. Patrick Mahomes has been there. Kelsey, a few of the players, but it's a younger team, of course. But we've been there before in San Francisco. Obviously, been there before, but it's been a very long time since they've done it. So yeah, I think obviously you've got to think the Chiefs. If you look at it on paper. But again, it depends. I don't think you're going to see the 49ers start as bad as they did against the Lions because the game will be over if they do that. But yeah, I think it's a very good 49ers team. We've talked about it on the podcast the last couple of weeks. It's a team assembled to win the Super Bowl. So, but everything has to work perfectly. If you're going to, they're going to have to get Mahomes. They're going to have to, I think the Ravens got the Mahomes once in the whole game. Which is mad, really, of the way they've been sacking quarterbacks this season. So that's where you're going to have to go. Nick Bosa is going to have to be just flying at him and trying to get him down. So yeah, obviously I'm going to go with the Chiefs because, like I said last week as well, even though I wasn't 100% confident against you, I'm always going to go with my team. But it's going to be a great game, and I think that it's going to be down to which quarterback, as we've spoken about it with these two games, which quarterback sees it all the way through. And hopefully, with the inexperience of Purdy and obviously the experience of Mahomes is the one to bring it on. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game again. I think it's going to be very close, and it's going to be, again, which quarterback can lead his team to the win.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I fully agree that this is going to be quite a closely matched game. And for me, I think, like you said, 49ers going to need the best of both, so really, and they got pressure in the end. They said they turned up with the heat really in pretty much in the second half of that Lions game, and really, for me, it was like, where was that run defense really in the first half, because they were just getting run over at the first by Gibbs and Montgomery, and as well as I do that they're going to be, he's going to be looking at and saying, right, we could probably get some good yardage with Pacheco and with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and they're going to have to really tighten up. And I'm almost been a little bit where they've been a little bit disappointed with just the play of Warner and Greenlaw. They seem to be they've almost been a little bit pedestrian so far in these last few games, and so they're really going to have to sort of tighten up on that. But I think one of the key things for me will be when things are kind of not going according to the plan, then you need to go off script. Who I put my money on? okay, Purdy will probably have like a nice plan in front of him, and got some nice handoffs to McCaffrey and get nice screens to Deebo Samuel and so on. But what happens if Deebo's covered? What happens if the running game for McCaffrey doesn't quite get going? I can't say, for me, I just feel like Purdy's going to struggle a lot more than Mahomes will, because I think and what they do as well as any team so far is being able just to put something together where they've probably had plan B, plan A, plan C is already in the fire, already ripped up and thrown out the window. It's that where I find would be the really interesting thing as well. And then you look at the Chiefs defense, and you look at you put them against the 49ers. They've been far more consistent as well. Whereas, Charvarius Ward, he's had a great season, but it's been patchy. Who's going to be the person lining up next to him on the other side? They're a little bit thin at corner for me personally. I just find that really Hargrave, he's been one of them key market signings. For me, he hasn't really done it for me this year. I don't think he's the player he was when he was in Philadelphia. So on that basis, I am going to go with the Chiefs as well. And until somebody can come up with a legitimate plan to stop Kelsey, really, who's going to be, number one guy, we have to wait and see. But yeah, I am definitely going with the Chiefs on this one. But like you said, it's going to be close.
Yeah, well, like you said as well, we our offensive line held out as well without Joe Tooney, and I was very worried when he was missing. I got to be honest with you, when I was looking at that offensive line, we're already. I don't like Jawan Taylor, and I've said about Donovan Smith. Creed Humphrey obviously been brilliant. Trey Smith didn't have a great game, but yeah, with Tooney missing as well, I was really worried. But yeah, guy who stepped up big time since he's come across last year as well. Drew Tranquil, he had an amazing game. But yeah, that's the one. I hope Tooney is back for the. I hope for that.
Yeah, absolutely, because Trey Smith definitely held more than twice, and I'm just going to leave it there.
It's 2 plays.
Yeah, he got the ping on the 2 plays. Correct. Well, so okay, so I think it's going to be a resounding yes for the Chiefs then. So we will see what happens on that. Moving on then. So guys, since the last time we spoke, we've had quite a few. The coaching carousel is still spinning. We've had quite a few more appointments now. A couple of surprises, but I don't know about you. There's some that I didn't quite expect. And Ashley, I'm going to come to you first on this. And which ones have you liked so far? Is anyone in particular that's jumped out at you?
Yeah, the Harbaugh one for me. I think Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers. I think it's needed for that Chargers team. I think Justin Herbert's gonna be very grateful that he's got a coach like Harbaugh coming in, because they haven't used him well enough. They haven't protected him well enough. He's constantly getting hit all the time. And the first thing Harbaugh needs to do is address that offensive line and protect your quarterback, because I think Herbert's a great quarterback. I think he can sling that ball really well, and he's kept that Chargers team going. Look, Jim Harbaugh's got experience in the NFL. He did well with the 49ers, won championship games. Obviously didn't win the Super Bowl, but got there. He's gone back to Michigan. He's been successful there. Just won the college championship. He's a winner. He knows how to win. He's experienced, and he's a manager who's very big on offense. He loves to have a strong offense, and I think that's what the Chargers need. I think got some really good players in that team on both sides, and they just need a manager now to kind of bring that all together. And it's going to be an exciting proposition too for players. In your free agency, why wouldn't you want to go and work with Harbaugh? You can definitely build something there. So I think that was a great appointment. They definitely underachieved, I think, the Chargers, considering some of the players they brought in over the last few years. They haven't quite hit it off. That comes down to your coaching team. But now with Harbaugh, I'm excited at what this Chargers team can do, and it starts obviously with this off season and who they go for in the draft and free agency.
Absolutely, and I think I agree, and I think the Harbaugh one was very much out of left field, really, for me, considering some of the coordinators that have been mentioned about getting interviews and being potential candidates, really, and Ricky because there is some talent on their roster, but they've maybe just a change of philosophy as well, because Staley was very much a defensive coach, and now they've got an attack coach coming on board. Probably a change is what they needed, and a change of philosophy, and plus he can ring his brother up for tips now, can he?
On how not to lose championship games.
Right.
Don't do what I did. Yeah.
Where's the delete button? Where's the delete button? Yeah.
I was going to say, we've got a good Harbaugh now coaching in the NFL. But yeah, no, I'm only joking. But yeah, no, it's a big move. Like Ash said, it's a surprising move, really. I know he's been there before, but usually if coaches are going to step down to college level, you're not really going to expect them to come into a top job, but I wouldn't anyway. Especially with, like you said, with the amount of talent that's in the coordinators already in the league. So it's risk or reward, isn't it, with this appointment? I think either it's going to be an amazing decision, and then, like you say, Justin Herbert and co are going to have the season of their lives, and they're going to then make the playoffs and do something, or he's going to bring college level coaching in, and we're going to see them still on the floor. So yeah, I think a decent appointment, but yeah, I think for me, I think Morris has got in with the Falcons, hasn't he?
He has, yeah.
I think that's a good appointment. Again, obviously, he's done a good job with the Rams. Again, defensive coach, though, isn't he, as well? So it's going to be interesting to see if he can actually make them Falcons defend, because we know they've got some weapons on offense from a few years ago in the trade. So, not in the draft, sorry, with Pitts and co. So let's see if he can do something there. And obviously, they shunned your guy, Ash, if the rumours are true, to put him in there. So big statement. But yeah, for Harbaugh, I think it's 50-50. It's either going to be an amazing decision or it's going to be a terrible decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think one of the things we can see is he's got a track record. So he's been a proven winner so far. So I think it's going to be fascinating. And like you said, there's Raheem Morris. He's got he's been there. He's been a head coach before, and will he be a success this time round? We will see. Hopefully, he can unlock all that young potential he's got, because I don't think we've seen the best of Pitts yet, and they had the high draft pick before with Drake London. Mm-hmm. So really, he's going to need some. He's going to have to see how he can work his magic. But yeah, I think for me, one of the fascinating ones as well is the Dave Canales one going to Carolina. Because I think on this one, he's got he's going to have a lot of work to do with that team, probably more than some of the other coaches that have been appointed so far.
Yeah, 100%. Carolina's a bit of a mess right now. They're not looking good on any side of the ball. So yeah, he's got a big job to do there. It's obviously going to start with getting those draft picks right, and trying to get a couple of dimes in from the draft. Obviously, free agency. I'm not sure what the cap space is like. I don't know, but yeah, it's a complete rebuild, I think, now with this Carolina team. I can't believe how far they've fallen in like a space of 6-7 years.
Yeah.
When they were in the Super Bowl with Cam Newton, and they've never ever capitalized on that. They kind of went the other way. So yeah, hell of a job for him. And yeah, it starts now, doesn't it? It starts in the off season and getting those draft picks right, and looking at what players they need to bring in. I mean, they got a quarterback last season. Let's give him another season and see what he can do. He had his moments this season, but no, they need a lot of work.
they certainly do, and really they're just going to have to put some pieces around Bryce Young just to get some, because that offense was just a mess last year, and to go along with more or less everything else. But they just could not move the ball for no level money, really. So they've got the young signal caller now, and they're going to have to sort of try and develop this team around him as well. But like you said, like Ricky just alluded to, actually, your man Bill is still he's still on the job market. He's still waiting for that phone call.
Oh, I heard rumours that he's going to be going to TV for a year, so he might take a year off. I wouldn't blame him, to be honest. Stressful job, isn't it? The NFL, and any coaching job, I think, is stressful. So, I think he said he might take a year off, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a phone call if some of these teams, like the Commanders or something, can't seem to get a coach in. I know that the Detroit offensive coordinator, I forgot his name.
Aaron Glenn.
He's staying. Yeah, he's staying at Detroit. He came out today and said he's staying. So that's another name off the market. I think Washington were interested in. So yeah, Bill might get a call. Who knows? But the rumors at the minute that he's taking a year off.
It could be interesting to see, because even just it could be a fascinating move, really, because of with that wealth of knowledge that you can listen to week in, week out. I'm totally on board with that. But at the same time, maybe, I don't know how you feel about this, Ricky. Perhaps he's come in and he's asking for he's asking too much from teams as well. Then people have said, look, okay, I'll come on and do the job, but this is the way I want to run it. Maybe some teams have decided and thought, maybe not.
Yeah, you're right. And obviously, he's had it all his way in New England, hasn't he? It's all been about him.
Yeah.
He's been given the reins to do what he does. It's quite hard then for him to pull back, and maybe an owner who wants to be more involved than what he's used to, and a general manager and stuff like that. So yeah, it's obviously going to be a learning curve for him now, because he's been in New England for so long. But I think, as you said, experience-wise, you're not going to get much better than that.
No.
Yeah, if he's pushed in too much, then off to the job centre he goes to sign on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, but at least we've got two more spaces to fill. Sort of, Washington are still looking, and Seattle are still out there as well. Still some good names out there. Perhaps Ben Johnson will land potentially one of those jobs. Mike McDonald, who knows? He's had a couple of interviews, but it remains to be seen if any of them come to bear fruit. But I think really, we've still got some good coordinators. Will Dan Quinn have another chance? We will see. But for me personally, one of the interesting lines that came out over the weekend was Aiden Did, the defensive line coach for the Dallas Cowboys. One of our own could potentially be getting interviews for some defensive coordinator's job, and for a British-born coach making in the league, that could be quite something.
Mm-hmm. That would be good. They seem to be obsessed at the moment making linebackers coaches. What's going on?
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Yeah, job them.
Yeah. So maybe we need to see a lot more offensive coaches that getting the top jobs. But lastly, guys, one of the things which another interesting storyline that may have come to fruition. Rumors of a potential trade then of Jalen Hurts. So, Ashley, I'm going to come to you first on this. But what do you think?
Yeah, so I a bit this before we came on here. Yeah, surprising, though also a little bit means not surprised. I think his attitude this year hasn't been great. In terms, it just doesn't seem bothered, does he? He just doesn't seem to be really that bothered by what's going on. I think he lacks a little bit of leadership as well. I think if he's due now to get a big money player, do you want to put all that money on him if he's not going to lead the way he's supposed to lead? Obviously, they were very unlucky not to come away with anything in the Super Bowl last year. But look, he's got a great team around him, isn't he? He's had an offensive line that's really good, full of the top players who have stayed fit as well. Just a key thing. I think you see other quarterbacks will have a lot of interest in that offensive line, and like Mahomes, he still maintains that high level. But yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. I just don't think he's the quarterback I think we all thought that maybe he is. I think he let his team down a few times, and like his attitude, I don't like the attitude. If you're going to get paid that much, then I expect someone to be a bit more in tune with their players, really, and a bit more rallying the troops.
Absolutely, because there's no smoke without fire, and I think with even he may there may be others who might be following out the door as well, because like we've seen there, Rick, that there was a bit of it's a rumor that the attitude of AJ Brown has not been exactly what you expect from a team player. So, but perhaps maybe this team could look really different next year. If he does get traded, I'm sure there's plenty of quarterback needing teams that could do with these services. One we've just spoke about, is sort of Washington, who've not really got their answer at QB at the moment.
No, but it would be interesting. Like I said, we heard about it before we came on, but yeah, he's a strange player, Jalen Hurts. I think he does a lot right, but then he does, when it comes to big moments, he can get it wrong, as he showed a few times this season. But obviously he's had a few injuries. But yeah, it's just be interesting Philadelphia-wise, though. Obviously, they're not going to get a good draft pick unless they're going to trade up. So they would have to be looking around the NFL for players, maybe. I think I've seen rumours today, Kirk Cousins saying he doesn't know if he's going to be a Viking next year. So someone like him potentially. So loads of rumours around Justin Fields, but I suppose you're getting the same kind of quarterback if you put him in there, probably scrambles a bit better. But yes, there's a few going around. What's Carson Wentz doing that? It's what we want to do, really. I think he, as we stated, he's probably underachieved. He obviously did amazing last year. I don't think similar anyone thought we were getting to the Super Bowl last year. They were getting to the Super Bowl last year. Sorry to face the Chiefs, and they did. They had an amazing season. This year, obviously, a lot of things have gone wrong. But yeah, like you said, if a few players leave that team, you're going to be relying on, finding draft picks lower down the order, unless you trade up, and you're going to be relying on the free agency, which, as we know, if some of these big players are leaving other teams, then why are they leaving them? So yeah, I imagine, like we said, with your boys, I doubt the likes of Odell Beckham and all will still be there next season, but then you get these players who seem to just bounce around every year to every club. So yeah, interesting one. I think, it is rumours, of course. We don't know what's going to go on, but with his big contract coming up, with his rookie deal ending soon, then it could be a case that they want to get rid before they have to pay a big money.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, like Kirk Cousins, really, probably that comes across as probably like the nicest quarterback. He's too nice to play quarterback. He seems like he should be selling Bibles maybe, but he's another classic example where his status is not for next year is just completely uncertain, really. Will Joshua Dobbs sort of take the reins from there on, really? Can he? Where will he go? Perhaps someone like we don't know what the extent of Aaron Rodgers. Is he going to be fit and healthy enough to come back from his ACL and to lead the Jets as well? Because they need somebody, because they certainly don't have one at the moment.
Yeah, no, Zach Wilson obviously hasn't been the star that everyone thought he would be, but they've got to give these boys, he hasn't made it in the Jets. It doesn't mean he won't make it somewhere else. Like I said a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about Trey Lance going to the Cowboys, you've got to give him a chance at their new franchise and see how it goes on. So even if the Jets isn't a fit for Zach Wilson, maybe he does it somewhere else. But yeah, like I say, Rodgers' age as well is going to be the thing about his ACL, isn't it? I don't think he's going to lose his throwing talent, but is whether he can, his limited movement can get even worse. So yeah, there's a lot of players around there now who, and a lot of quarterbacks, and there will be a few places to fill, I think, this season.
Absolutely, and one which maybe not be a bit of a surprise, but perhaps if they're going to take this next step, actually, if they're going to be a competitive team again, look at Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett may not necessarily answer, and Mason Rudolph. Well, I think he can be someone who could come in and step in and be a sort of a decent backup, but he's not a number one quarterback.
No, definitely not. I think Mason Rudolph showed that he's a backup, isn't he? The way that he played. Steelers again. They're a team. It's going to be interesting to see what they do in the off season in terms of the quarterback. I don't think Kenny Pickett's the right guy. Don't forget we still got Russell Wilson that's going to be floating around. Hasn't got a team this season. You mentioned quarterbacks, and he's a guy who can go to any team and make it better. It didn't work out for him. The Broncos. It was just the wrong trade. It was the wrong team. But I think he can definitely go somewhere and make it work. Potentially a team like the Steelers, we've got a good defense and will turn the ball over and put the back in Russell Wilson's hands. Who knows? It's going to be interesting this offseason in terms of quarterbacks. Like I say, there's a couple of big names that are out there, and obviously now we can add Jalen Hurts to that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with the quarterback situation.
Absolutely, and I think no, looking back, I'm really kicking myself on some of my predictions from last season podcast, because I had Denver being this team that are going to be the team that's going to turn it around. It's going to work with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. Well, that just aged like milk, didn't it? But yeah, he is another classic example of where he could be someone who could be on the market as well. So I think really when by the time September comes, there's going to be quite a few faces and new places. But anyway, guys, I think that pretty much does it for today. Thank you very much. And thank you to all of our listeners so far. Please keep listening. Give us a like, give us a follow, and hopefully we'll continue to grow. And we'll certainly do a bit of a recap now after the Super Bowl in 2 weeks' time. But anyway, thanks very much, and we'll see you again.
Cheers, Simon.
Bye.